Hey, and welcome to the Wild Theology Podcast. And this one, I'm with my good friend Christian Day.
Hi.
So we're going to be talking across the strange worlds between us, between Christianity and paganism. I know you don't use the name pagan these days.
And also the age-old battle. Just put it back to sheet again. The age-old spousal battle.
What?
The age-old spousal battle that has now gone digital of the, what do you call it? Your temperature.
Yeah.
Well, my husband and I sort of battling it out over the HVAC mode and, you know, him insisting on keeping it so hot in here that I'm going to die.
Yeah, that would kill me too. So we're gonna be talking about one of those things that was probably the thing that got me kicked off Facebook for a week. Actually, I didn't get jail for a week. I got booted off permanently, and finagled my way back in by saying I'm not what you think I am. So Christian, I got a question about that. These things happen when you're around. I mean, I got excommunicated from a denomination from a picture. It started with a picture, just hanging out with you and having fun. And now I do a podcast with you, and Facebook says you're permanently banned. And I have to
but they got that whole story wrong. Like that wasn't even about witches. That was about vampires. Because you had that Countess Bathoria. She's not even a witch. Really isn't a vampire, is it? She's a movie actress. She's
an actress. I know.
It's not even a witch.
She felt so bad about that too. I didn't recognize her with all her garb on when, it was Sean's funeral. And I was standing there getting ready, being one of the casket bearers. And I think it was right afterwards, she came up to me and she said, I am so sorry. She'd been looking at me funny, and and then she mentioned the story, and I was like, "Oh, no big deal. It's not your fault." But so now, what we want to talk about here is the whole QAnon conspiracy phenomena and its weirdness, and so I'm going to give just a little backdrop of this, because not everybody knows the QAnon conspiracy stuff very well. It started on October 28th officially of 2017, when the first quote Q drop happened in the bulletin board that it was being promoted under, and it was basically a HRC extradition was the idea. Hillary's going to be arrested. Of course. That little prophecy or whatever it is went wrong, right? It didn't happen. Since then, there's been about a little under 5,000 what they call Q drops. And it's been, like false stories about, election fraud, or, this cabal of people who are, pedophiles. And they're all in the government, and Trump was going to bring them down. Trump's going to be reelected. All these things were part of that. And we know pretty clearly that evangelical Christianity has been inundated with believers, or, I really like, what's the term you used? They're not really believers, but they're Q adjacent. Isn't that what you called it?
Oh, yeah. There was a recent article that said, I've seen actually two numbers, 30%, 40%. Of Republican voters embrace QAnon, but I think that would include the Q adjacent. But I did want to challenge one thing, which was that it began with the post, what is it, on 4chan. I mean, can we honestly not say that it really sort of started with Pizzagate, because Q really forwarded a lot of that. The whole idea of Comet Ping Pong having a basement and they were sucking the blood out of, like the whole sucking the blood out of children, child abuse component of QAnon really didn't start with QAnon. It started with Pizzagate, and then somebody named Q, who is either, what are their names?
Watson, Jim Watkins.
And Watkins and Ron Watkins.
And Ron, his son, yeah.
Yeah. One of them or both of them is probably because here's the thing, if they had the access to the server, then they would be more positioned than anyone to know who the identity actually was, which is more likely to make it them.
Right. Yeah, so, there's that, for people who don't know, there's that thing of what is QAnon, and it's this conspiracy theory hidden in kind of terms that look like a puzzle. I'm dropping you some information. Now you have to go study it for yourself. And of course, what everybody does is go on YouTube, and YouTube algorithms just take you deeper down a rabbit hole of whatever you're chasing, right? And now everybody thinks they've studied it really well and put this puzzle together, right?
Do your own research.
Yeah. But then the Who seems to be this guy with his websites, bulletin board websites in the Philippines, Ron Watkins, and he does the circuit of QAnon events by going and speaking to them here in the U.S. So we had all these Christians kind of fall to these conspiracies, but then you've called me a number of times and said, we've got this going on in pagan circles. It's driving me crazy. What do I do?
Look at it. When you say, the research of the conspiracy, I've seen screen captures, because there's websites where they, it's literally all the Q people, and they're interpreting the drops on this other message board website. And, you see the screen captures, and they'll literally look at someone's comment, like, I can't remember the specific one I'm thinking of, but if the person just mentioned a certain number, they try to take that number back to a particular Q drop to see it as a secret code. And it's such a stretch.
Well, and then even that, the problem with the stretch is, if I stretch it, what's the problem for me saying, I didn't get that stretch correct? That Q drop is true, but I didn't interpret it right. So now let's reinterpret it in the light of what really did happen, right?
Well, those are people unwilling to let the thing go. At some point, the true hallmark, I think, of an intelligent human being, and I know that there's this whole idea that, really smart people can get sucked into cults. I don't think I necessarily share that theory. I know that it is one, but I think if you're really intelligent, you know when to draw the line and cut your losses and say, well, maybe I invested a lot in this, but that does not justify any continued investment. You know what I mean? Sort of like realizing when a stock's going bad, you might have had a lot of luck with it for a few years, but now it's going sour. Time to get off the train. They don't have that mechanism in their mind.
Yeah, and that's but that's kind of the struggle with cognitive dissonance theory. So I don't know if you're familiar with its beginnings. It started with a flying saucer cult in Chicago that said the spacemen, because they didn't use the word aliens, were going to come and take them away just before Christmas, and because there was judgment coming upon the earth. So they were saying, everybody come and join us. The spacemen are going to take us off.
And how is that appealing to Christians?
That wasn't a Christian group, actually. It was like a New Age alien cult. And it was a small group. Dorothy Martin was the lady's name.
Okay, not the sneaker dude that killed
No, because this was in 1953 or 4. But they had students, sociology students, embedded into the group, and they predicted that it would be kind of like the Jehovah's Witnesses or the 1840 Seventh-day Adventists. When their prediction of the end of the world didn't come to pass, they would dig their heels in and become more evangelistic, and the group would grow. For some people, they've jumped off the Q train because it went badly, but others were so deeply invested. I mean, I'm just watching, even apart from Q, the Trump thing, I'm watching the amount of email I get from Republican groups pushing kind of the pro-Trump train and the stolen election has magnified after. Not
did you go to that? I don't want to say
in.
I don't want to say the site lest it affect your YouTube, but did you go to that .win site that I was telling you about? Because that's
no.
Oh, that's where it all. That is sort of ground zero for the commentary now. So when you see like the Washington Post or the New York Times saying a Q message board site, they're almost always talking about this particular URL.
Oh, okay, so yes, I did go there for one peek. Tell me the kind of stuff you're seeing on it.
Yeah, let me. I'm going to bring it up on my phone because it's some good shit. I did want to comment though on one of the. What do you say? Well, the site where it started, okay? Because I never went to the 4chan, and I never went to the 8chan. But one of my friends had said, "Oh, you got to go to 4chan. You can say anything." I said, "Usually that comes with a price," and so
yeah, like not being able to visit countries.
Well, my friend ended up leaving the site because of the racism and this and that.
Right.
And so then it became 8chan, and then now Q basically went through 4chan, 8chan, and now 8kun. So I went to the, because I'm like, I only recently, I mean, I sort of vaguely knew about Pizzagate. I mean, I'm somewhat political, but I'm in the, I run the gamut. I have conservative views, I have liberal views. I'm all over the place, and I don't really do extremes. So it wasn't until Q stuff beat me over the head that I had to go see what it was over the last year. And so I go to this 8kun because I said, I have to see what all the hullabaloo is about. And that is where the Q drops now happen. Though I think the last one was December 10th. And so I'm going through this website, and it's a sort of 90s era HTML kind of ghetto website.
Terribly
and I'm
ugly.
looking and literally, I think I'm being conservative saying that 30% of the posts I saw had either the N word or the K word that people say against Jewish people. Like, it was so viscerally and blatantly racist and anti-Semitic. So me being, I tend to ask the questions a lot of the other pundits don't ask. I tend to think of the things a lot of the pundits don't think of. And the first thing that came to my mind was, if I saw myself as this good Christian patriot who was high up in government, who was destined to save America, the Republic, and restore it to its former glory, but I truly saw that I had a good Christian and patriotic mission ordained by God and Jesus themselves, am I going to espouse this view on a message board, which is N-word this, K-word that, the most visceral racism and anti-Semitism I've ever witnessed on a single, I think Stormfront would have a run for its money, with these people. And so I'm like, I'm not a Christian, but I can put myself into the mindset of one, and try to see from that point of view empathetically and say, well, if I were a Christian, I'd want to debut these views somewhere that everyone could, like Oprah, I mean,
right.
On the O network or OWN or whatever it is, I want to go and be somewhere where I could maybe, go tour Fox News and CNN and try to reach everybody, not N-word this and K-word that. I think that alone.
Sure.
If I'm looking at the veracity or truthfulness or genuineness of a particular philosophy, I'm that type of person that sort of stops at the first stop on the track and then evaluate. I would never be able to get past that. Like, if there was any hope that I could embrace some of these Q theories, I'd never be able to get past where that person chose to actually portray their position. I would immediately suspect this person as trying to stir drama and just create non-existent fabrication. They found these other ways, like on the social media with the Save the Children hashtag, which they later changed to Save Our Children because, the Sally Struthers group was like, we're trying to feed poor African people here. You're messing up our jam, but I had a lot of liberals get upset with me when I would comment on their, they tried to rope me in and they would tag me on these Save the Children. And I'd be like, you're actually hurting children. And they're like, well, what do you mean? I said, well, I'm a logical minded person. If a certain municipal law enforcement agency, let's say the Los Angeles Police Department has, I don't know the number, but let's say they have $500,000 to allocate towards fighting the very real danger of child trafficking and human trafficking. And they got $500,000 in the account, in the budget, earmarked for this purpose. And they go and they listen to the cues and they spend all that $500,000 chasing Oprah, Tom Hanks, Lady Gaga, and these other celebrities of Hollywood that are supposedly in on the conspiracy and drinking the blood of children. You have now wasted that $500,000 on windmills, the Don Quixote reference, and now spent it where it could have been spent fighting real child trafficking. So essentially, QAnon is hurting children.
Yeah. And well, and it hasn't, the Save the Children element of it hasn't effectively done anything really, except to try and highlight a fable, a very dark one, but it's a fable. And of course, this is Kevissimo, Kevin Raleigh. He made a comment about the 8kun and said it's horrid and pretty consistent in all its forms. So he's and he mentioned also the Telegram is one of the places where people have run to now, as well as Rumble. So that's where these things are found. And
I'm looking.
Yeah, this is where the bugs are crawling under the carpet.
I want to address something that I asked him earlier, but he didn't tell me. Is Josh Turiel still on the council? Anyway, he's great. I wish he was. If he's not, I wish he was. He's smart.
I believe he still is. Yes.
Well, he's in the comments there, and said, he raises a very important point here with the where did the blood libel start? Because you remember, because when we first met 22 years ago, we're talking about, Illuminati and Michael Warnicki and Panic, and they resurrected the same old, it's all repackaged Jewish blood libel. And this is even more obvious because in the Mike Warnicki era, it was human child sacrifice. Now it's even like more dead on in the sense that they're basically accusing these people of drinking the blood of the children of good Christian patriots. It's all what the church used to do to Jewish people when they'd have the pogroms and the passion plays, and then suddenly you'll be accusing
same accusations,
right. And they're not even that. I mean, they're so similar now, and if you look at the who's being accused, George Soros and the Rothschilds, it's the same old names of prominent Jewish business people, and
that goes back way before the 80s satanic conspiracy theory, right? I mean, we're going way back. You've got the protocols of the elders of Zion, and this stuff was utilized to kind of further thoughts within the Nazi Party. So
but even before that, you had the the Middle Ages. I mean, this type of Jewish blood libel is centuries, and that Christians would allow it. It's like I try not to be, and me because we've known each other so long. I try to hold you up as the template of what a Christian represents to me. I don't try, because I want you to use me. Well, hopefully not me, but somebody with a better character than me.
Yeah, I was wondering the same thing about me.
As the template of what a warlock or practitioner of witchcraft is, in that, I choose to identify Christianity by the best of them. And I try not to overly, I don't get into the subject of, why can't women be priests in the Catholic Church? Because I'm not Catholic. But when it comes to my own corner, I do encounter people that believe this. I have one business owner, a friend of mine, who, he seems to have stopped over the last couple of months. He finally got the, but I'm getting these Q videos every other week. Oh, this is, once you see this, it's always preamble.
I know.
It's always,
me too.
Now this is the one, because the other 50
right.
videos didn't convince me, but this one's going to be the one. And finally, I called him. I've had this conversation with more than one person in the magical community, and I try to start it out by something simple people can understand. So it usually starts with, Tommy has 2 apples. And then I open up a pop-up book. No, and so, see, you're nicer than me. But the thing is, here's the take. If you've got this group of people, because someone sent me this video of the Out of the Shadows or whatever it was, and it was some Hollywood stuntman who broke his arm or leg or something and became a Christian. And once he was a Christian, he realized the conspiracy of the Illuminati, this and that. And I said, so these people believe in this pyramid that starts with Satan, goes down to the Illuminati and all these Jewish people that are supposedly involved. And then it reaches, the people in the cult and the blood drinking of children, and the terms that they use to represent what they perceive as the good in society is basically good Christian patriots. That's, you're a patriot, you're a Christian, you follow Jesus, etc., etc.
Right.
And so, which does make it amusing how many people were caught in the Capitol building with, Norse pagan symbolism, but there's a whole.
I was going to bring that one up.
Ball of wax. But here's the thing. Okay, so I would say to the person, okay, Tommy has 2 apples. Here's a pop-up book. Jane has a pair. And so if these people were to come into power, is the question. I asked this of any pagan or witchcraft practitioner that might be listening to this, that might think Q is something to be listened to. I want to ask you this. If these people were to come into power and be able to enforce this idea that we should all be good Christian patriots and follow Q and Trump, etc., as a magical practitioner, do you think they would lump you in with the good Christian patriots or the Illuminati occult conspiracy? Because I know what logically I think they're going to designate you as. I could be the biggest Q proponent on earth, and I guarantee you, if they ever got into power, my public warlock ass is getting hauled into some gulag or another.
Right.
So I can't understand. I mean, I don't really understand Christians being involved with this, but I'm
going to get hauled in with you probably.
I really can't understand magical people, because at least you are a Christian, and you are, in my opinion, I think we're both patriots. We care very deeply for America, even if we like Wales more.
That's right.
The point is, we care very deeply for this.
See, I got my Dragoch behind me here.
But we are both, in my opinion, we are patriots. You're a Christian and you're good. So you are a good Christian patriot. You might be able to fake it, but there's no, I don't understand how any magical practitioner, I've heard of people in the OTO, the Salima Crowley group, being into the Q, and it's like, God, they're even more, occult Templar secret society than witches. You think they're going to lump you in with the good Christian? There's something wrong with someone that thinks that.
Right.
Just saying.
Yeah. So you made mention of, that day on January 6th when everybody's rolling through the White House. And one of the examples we had, of course, was the guy who goes by Q Shaman. He's classic. And if you've ever heard him speak, I mean, he just rambles about all these conspiracy theories and all his symbology. I mean, it's not like Christian symbology. Yet on the other hand, when he rambles, it's like, I don't know, it's like this occult mix of Christianity with New Age, with neo-paganism. It's kind of this wild.
Here's what I
think, right? But as a neo-pagan, what I
want to understand. Here's what I want to
thinking. You're looking at the news. magical.
I mean, you know, I've been very critical of
Yeah.
shops. Shop I won't name in Salem, but you can certainly look it up through Vice magazine. Selling the books of Stephen McNallen, who is part of the Asatru Folk Assembly, which in my opinion is probably the most racist religion currently on the planet. And they were selling his books in Salem, and it really bothered me. And I don't consider myself a pagan, because to me, what binds pagans together is their various religions, all of which are so different. I call myself a warlock or a witch, practitioner of witchcraft. And when I use the term community, and I took this page from my husband, I really liked how Brian articulated this, as we see ourselves as part of the magical communities. Right. And we say it plural, because then that binds us to all the various practices out there whose focus is the actual practice of magic to transform one's life and help people around them in a very proactive way, which I'm not distancing from, say, a prayer. I think that can be similar, but it changes the focus a little. But when I look at the Norse paganism, you have two kinds. There's a great battle within it.
I know.
There are people trying to get rid of the racist elements, but it is the one corner of pagan theology, if you will, where if I see a new author or someone says to me, "Oh, I know this, Norse practitioner that you should have present at one of your events," the first place my head goes is I've got to research them to make sure they're not one of the racists. I don't generally have to think about that with most witchcraft practitioners. I probably should vet them more too, and I do to some degree. But with the Norse, I got to find out if they were racist. It's a sad state of affairs. But what I don't understand on your end, and what I am curious about, is, how is it that these deeply religious Christian Q people are able to stand so arm in arm with people who are quite obviously, I mean, you're the type of Christian that's, you obviously stand arm in arm with people, but you're more progressive. These are people that consider themselves very fundamentalist, hardcore, and xenophobic, that are Christian Q members, yet they're standing arm in arm in the Capitol building with people who are anything but Christian. They're white supremacists, neo-Nazi Norse mythologists, or what have you, or Norse religionists. They're not remotely Christian.
Yeah,
how does that work?
We're trying to figure that out. So John Moorhead,
what I'm talking
John Moorhead's been watching, and he's one of those people with me who's been,
But I'm not imagining.
What is it? Where are we? What are we doing? Another guy, Michael Cooper.
I hope I'm not imagining this, because it does sort of seem
right.
Is this
and it is difficult to figure out. I'm looking at it as
CPAC. I mean, the stage at CPAC. I mean, I don't know. As a graphics designer, I find it extremely difficult to believe that
somebody didn't see it.
That no one stopped along the way and said, the stage is laid out exactly like an Odal rune, which of course the runes are very sacred to the ancient Norse and they're not evil. However, Hitler and company took some of these imageries, and unless you're in India, if you go to India, you can see a swastika because it has a different meaning there.
Right, it does.
And it is what it is. But if Indians come here and started flying the swastika, they'd get a lot of hell, and rightfully so, because the Western culture has had the image poisoned by the Nazis. But so too was the Odal rune, and it used to be on the lapel there.
On the lapel of the SS.
Of the SS. And it's like, that's the stage. Well, okay, it's the stage, but that means that the conservatives of CPAC, many of whom are led by the leaders of fundamentalist Christianity and right-wing politics, are embracing these pagan symbols in the name of Trumpism. And I just wonder,
but is that really anything new in Christianity? I mean, we saw some elements of Christianity embrace Hitler. We've seen it down through history that there's been either conspiracy theories or people who've moved so far off the mark that it's no longer about the Jesus we serve, but God wanting to do what we want to happen on this earth. And we see our nation as this God-ordained thing. So God's got to be for us. And that's one of the things we've seen
I don't
within
have
the
one
multi-faith
God.
matters group is that those who are attached to a Christian nationalism connected to America's divine, intent, and are trying to keep that, are most likely to be aligned with Trump, and probably more likely to be aligned with conspiracy theories like Q, because underneath it all, there's this satanic intent to bring down the divine purpose of America and thereby stop God's hope for it, as it were. I mean, that's kind of like the thing that's going on.
What about the first commandment? But well, I'm just, look, I'm not.
I'm just telling you what we see.
Okay,
yeah.
I'm not Christian, but I like Laurie Cabot taught me 32 years ago, you put someone's head on, psychically. But metaphorically, I'm not really doing anything. But I can sort of put their head on. I can say, well, think of myself as a Christian. And, me being, one of my coven brothers, Levi Rowland, calls my Calvinist obsession with the truth. This idea that I immediately notice those inconsistencies that show this thing is not genuine. If I put my head on of a Christian and say I'm a Christian, I literally look at, okay, I'm standing in the Capitol building with these people who worship false gods, but I'm willing to stand arm in arm with them in the name of this bizarre conspiracy theory. So I'm going to violate one corner of my moral ideal to satisfy this other one, which just, it falls apart logically.
Now we have some kind of strange public political God, right?
Well, that's the other thing. Literally,
is what begins. And then if you, and then if you have somebody like Donald Trump being the Pope of that, for lack of another word, then to go against him is to go against God. And that seems to be the way some people are thinking about it.
Let me ask you something. You know more about this than me, I'm sure. Are there not people in the planning committees of CPAC that are the Donald Wildman? Well, he's dead. But, are there not conservative Christian leaders in some way involved in the planning of CPAC, where I'm just saying, I can't imagine, given how much power the Christian right has in America, I cannot imagine that there's nobody in the planning committees of CPAC that aren't these strong, hardcore, right-wing Christians that would not notice they're bringing this gold statue of Donald Trump into the foyer, and they're using pagan symbolism on the stage. Warneke looked. Remember, remember the Christian right saw 666 in the beard of Procter and Gamble. I mean, they looked for the tiniest. They saw symbols that were not there, but this is so obvious, and nobody. Never mind the odor room, the clear biblical. The Moses, the
statue one. So I'm going to give him a little bit of a pass on the statue, and this is why. So the artist who made the statue is out of LA here. I forget his name. I was looking it up, but it wasn't commissioned, wasn't paid for. He was making something that he hoped would perhaps be in the Trump library when the library comes along. And so, this artist created this thing. The one that they rolled in was not the original. The original is out of stainless steel, and this was a mock-up of it in fiberglass. And so, they rolled it in, and
why did no one roll it out?
And they didn't put it in a prominent location. So there's probably some group that went, we like that. Whether they were a good Christian group or not, I don't know. But friends of mine have said, who were Trump supporters, have said, I don't like this thing. It's ugly art, and I'm not into idols, and I don't like it.
Itself. So but somehow it all makes it to the stage.
Oh my gosh, it makes it terrible.
You can say whatever you want, but they don't really pay attention to their optics.
Exactly.
They're not. I mean,
they don't, and it becomes an absolute carnival of insanity. Right?
I mean, I'm very thankful.
Who didn't think, I don't think we want this in here. This is going to be bad for us. This will get a lot of press. You know, who was it that let it in? I don't know.
It just does rather seem like this keeps happening.
Right.
You know, and that there's not a lot of oversight. I mean, just the fact. I mean, I have seen people on some of these message boards, particularly the Q one, where some of them talk about making Trump into a monarch. You know, they actually believe that we should overthrow our actual republic.
They didn't care about the democracy. They just wanted, well, and this is part of the establishment of, quote, God's kingdom on earth. It doesn't matter how it comes, just that it comes, right? And they've been looking at it as guys like Lance Wallnau have been talking about it as war, right?
It does. That does scare me.
Yeah.
Like that does. Scare. I think some of these people are nuts. And the sick thing is, it is, you know, there's the whole, you know, both far right wingers and far left wingers hate this theory naturally, which I like. But political horseshoe theory, the idea, you know, that they sort of meet at the other end. Well, now it's almost a circle. I mean, literally, I hear terms like the deep state from both the far left and the far right. There are little things, and you start to listen, and it's like, you're really coming together, and that's especially terrifying.
Sure. When you realize that Hitler was the Democratic Socialist Party, became the Nazi Party, you know, I mean, the whole thing is this crazy circle.
Sometimes the right likes to stick him as a leftist, but to be fair, he hated.
No, he wasn't, but he got himself in circles like that.
Well, it was the line from the musical Evita. You know, one moves from left to right. Politics, the art of the possible. You know, you pivot yourself to whatever is going to make you win. But that's the reason that people of good moral fiber, and whether that's Christians, witches, or any other people who have, and even atheists, I think, can have an ethical compass. But people with a strong compass should have been able to recognize that this was never about principle in the world of Trump. It was always about Trump. I mean, it's the very essence of cult of personality, which I may have, you know, used for my own career once or twice. So I do know a thing about cult of personality. I'm just saying. But listen to this. So this is one of the posts from the great. Well, I won't say it. I don't want to send people there anyway. Something big is about to drop. President Trump said, quote, 302 in his CPAC, you know, 3:02 in his CPAC speech Sunday. Pompeo posted about a badge of honor yesterday. These both connect to Q drop number 2491. What is about to drop? You know, the information on ACB, Amy Coney Barrett's father, or because they think she's being blackmailed. Repost from yesterday for more traction. Like literally, they just will look at the smallest piece of something.
Yeah.
And
they're playing Dungeons and Dragons with politics.
It's so bizarre. The hard part for us is having to wait for the public to know what we've known for a very long time. You know, one guy was saying, my sister told me about the new Tom Hanks movie, and I just had to pretend to smile because, you know, I know the truth of his pedophilia. And I'm thinking,
oh, man.
Of all people. Like they could have picked, like Tom Hanks is going to be I'm just saying, you're going to pick the nicest one. Take, You're going to pick on poor Forrest Gump. Come on.
Hasn't even picked on enough. So we're getting pretty close to rolling this together. Let me ask you this question about the effect that this has upon the magical world, the occult world, heathen, pagan, witch, warlock, druid. by having these people who've aligned themselves with Q thoughts and wild conspiracy theories, or maybe it's just, maybe it's, like you say, Q adjacent and Trump
no, they're
lovers.
outright. Some of them Q adjacent, others are
how
outright.
has this affected, how do you look at it as affecting both the events that you do, as well as kind of the reputation of paganism as a whole?
Well, I will say I've had the mute button under my finger a couple of times. I was like, if they mention this on this class, or I'm shutting it down. No, because I do, I'm very broad-minded in the politics of the people around me. I mean, I'm even being a little semi-forgiving of some of the Trumpies more than usual, but, try to keep the conversations open. Meghan McCain and, oh God, Van Jones just did this Reunited States of America where they're talking about how do we bring conversation together with people who aren't so far gone.
Right.
Maybe we're being a little too heavy-handed. Well, my fear with the magical community is, I don't think there are a lot of them. There are more magical community Republicans, I think, than there are Qs, and I'm not as bothered. But if it weren't for Trump, I think when our marriage first became legal, I was like, Brian, does this mean we can be Republicans now? But then Trump happened and that ship sailed. But yeah. However, it's not something that just concerns me, because it's interesting you asked the question that way, but I'm more concerned as a citizen of the world and of the United States.
Right.
Like, my concern is less about witches becoming Q people as it is anyone becoming Q people and actually feeding the political power base. I wonder, when my only real question as it pertains to the magical community is, how the hell could you believe in this when these people would haul you off to a gulag?
Right.
That much is where I think that's sort of where it intersects with my beliefs. But as a politically active person, or at least politically minded, or politically minded, I am far more concerned about the impact of anyone, atheist, witch, Christian. I'm concerned about Christians following this cue. I'm concerned about anyone that would put this sort of racist, xenophobic, and frankly dangerous into the world stage from a conservative perspective. I've always felt that Trump, long before all of the social ills of Trump, my greater concern from the beginning of his candidacy was his danger to the world stage. And when January 6th happened, that's exactly where my mind went. And the liberals and conservatives alike were complaining about the number of National Guard he had. And I said to myself, the reason those National Guard are there aren't because of the Qs. They are there to send the message to the rest of the world, because our illustrious president at the time, waiting 4 days to deploy the National Guard, sent a message to every despot out there in the world outside of America: hey, you don't need to hijack a plane, just walk through the front door. So from I'm more pro strong America conservative side, was far more against Trump than my liberal side, which is also against Trump. But that danger that QAnon, its isolationism, represents to both America and the world terrifies me. So it really isn't about which, do I think if Q is powerful enough to affect America, it's going to be way beyond the witch community. I think that'll just be an afterthought. If these people have real political power and they are able to influence the chain of events in America, their micro influence in the witch community isn't going to matter. It's going to be the symptom of a far broader problem, if that answers the question.
Right. Yeah. And, so Cavissimo made the comment here that he's lost dozens of people to Q, and all of them profess Christianity.
I'm a brain surgeon. I can say it. Doesn't make it true.
Right.
I mean, look, I'm not in the position to define what Christianity is beyond my, as an interfaith person, and not the kind that looks for a fellow leftist, Christian at the UU church, but really crossing bridges with people like you and John Moorhead. But my hope is to define Christian by those of you who uplift this. But at the same time, I do, I may not be a Christian, but I do worry about what's going on over there because it affects the rest of us.
Right. If we have a significant portion of our population involved in strange things like this, it has direct impact on society because as a group, we're so large.
I mean, I'm not in the position to do the, no true Scotsman at the Christians, but I do sort of in my heart believe those people are no longer Christians or they're back and whatever you define them. I don't see those people as upholding what it means of what you represent. Like when I think of Christianity, I think of you in so many ways. And so when I think of how you practice and live your life, I don't see those people doing that. I see them putting a gold idol or a personality. I mean, they don't need, your friends can say, oh, I don't like that statue, but you know what? They still are practicing idolatry. But if they're supporting Trump at this point, it has become the very essence of idolatry. Except, instead of a gold finish, it's a McDonald's wrapper. It's true. It is idolatry and a cheeseburger. It's idolatry, plain and simple.
Yeah. So, Diana, I know you've met Diana Greenfield. She's the
I love her.
I call her the Goth Vicar of Glastonbury.
Oh, I adore her. She says she met me. I don't remember meeting her.
Yeah. So anyway, she made the comment here that most of the people she knows who have bought into the Q phenomena in the UK are New Agers who tend to like conspiracy theories. And that, of course, that makes sense from where she lives.
I don't understand anybody outside of America.
In Glastonbury.
Yeah, but I'm really confused by that because, when I read these articles about the Q in the UK and these other places, the politics of the Q, outside of their belief in a conspiracy theory run by Rothschild and other Europeans, the bulk of what they talk about is centered in American politics. So it confuses me deeply that this has become popular at all anywhere else because it's all surrounding
It doesn't become popular anywhere at all, period.
Right, but at least here, Trump was our president, whether he's in office or not office, if he's secretly coming back on March 4th, what the fuck does somebody in Glastonbury care? Pardon my French. I don't understand.
Is that French?
I'm just...
What? Why do we always blame the French?
Well, I can say, pardon my freedom. Remember they called them freedom fries? Remember freedom fries? I don't know. She's wonderful.
Yes, she is.
I don't understand people.
She's going to send you the photo of when you met.
I feel bad. Just pardon me. I'm old. Did we meet in a, I know I had dinner.
It was October. Let's just face it.
Oh, is it here? Oh, wait a minute. Now I
Salem.
I kept thinking Glastonbury. I'm like, where did I meet her in Glass? Now I remember. Never mind. No, it was
in Salem. She came to Salem and was working with us.
I completely remember now. My brain was on, she's in Glastonbury, and then I remember you introduced me to I remember the vicar in Salem. Okay. I needed the right context. Just pardon. My memory isn't what it used to be. But no, she was very charming and is very charming. I hope to meet you in Glastonbury.
Absolutely, great place. So let's kind of roll to a close here. Let people know where they can contact you. What's going on with you?
Well, the easiest place to access everything else is christianday.com and or facebook.com/christianday13 is my personal account, but I don't think I have any available slots at the moment. But I always love talking to you, Phil, and I hope.
Oh my gosh!
Well, people loved when you came on my show. They were like, "You're more intellectual when he's there."
Well, and the fact of the matter is, you're a very intellectual guy. You're very intelligent, and you have great observations, and I can pretty much trust that if something goes wacky, in the world around you, you're going to be the guy wagging your finger going, no, you guys stop this nonsense. You know,
I mean, I've been really hated sometimes for coming out and being the heavy in the pagan world and saying, you know, I don't like Star Chamber style, you know, conflict resolution. And, you know, this is where the left gets a little crazy, you know, when they say, oh, this person's guilty and we verified it and you can trust us. And if you ask them what the details were, oh, you know, you're shaming the victim by forcing them to relive their trauma. I'm like, this is America. We have the right to confront our accusers and know what we're being accused. You know, so there's a lot of drama, you know, in our end of things. And because of my position in you know, I, not to be obnoxious about it, but economic power and ability to sort of step in, I have used that power on occasion. I've said, look, I don't like what's going on here. And, you know, they don't like that I can weigh in, but hey, I'm going to weigh in. But I only do it when it's, I think, a truly great ethical question. You know, once every few years, something will happen in the magical community and I have to sort of come in and say, you know, something. Salem, if I was still living in Salem, it'd be every other week.
You know, Salem has a bit of drama there.
We don't deal with that.
And as friends with so many people in the community there, sometimes I feel like I've been in the middle of a witch war myself.
How about me? They all come to
well, of course. I expect that from you.
No,
but you know, I expect myself to be in the Christian wars. You get
but everybody wants me to take sides. Never mind. Even if it has nothing to do with me. You have no idea they want me to get involved. It's like, look, I'm not your judge, jury, and executioner. I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to deal with my own conflicts. That's why I move. I don't do anything here. I go out to the pool when it works.
As long as you get somebody to fix it, huh?
Just that's the one. You trade off Salem drama for New Orleans inefficiency, but whenever the inefficiency of New Orleans gets too hard to bear, something in Salem comes along to remind me of why I moved. And I love Salem, don't get me wrong, but there is
absolutely
crazy that goes on under the surface there that bubbles up, you know, from time to time every 2 days.
It wouldn't be an interesting place if it didn't.
True, but it's come a long way since when I was a kid.
Yeah, I mean, how close is interesting to the edge of trouble? It's right.
Welcome to my life.
Yeah, and welcome to mine. I think that's a big part of why we get along so well. We get it.
You gotta be a rabble rouser sometimes. You gotta.
So ChristianDay.com. People can find you there. Okay, and this has been the Wild Theology Podcast with Christian Day, and we've been talking about QAnon conspiracy, both in Christian and pagan circles. You can find this podcast on Podbean for the audio, and it'll be up on YouTube. And if you want to rewatch it, it'll still be on my Facebook profile. So, hey, thanks for checking us out. It's so good hanging out with you, man.
You too. Talk soon.